Hey guys, welcome to the Start My Biz podcast again. This time we have Simon, a music producer and studio owner who has my favorite story about an encounter with a Soundcloud rapper. On with the show. All right, Simon, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David.
Oh, no problem. So tell me, what's the nature of your business?
I run I run a recording studio called Signals and Noises Studio, based out of Scarborough, Ontario.
Scarlem.
Scarlem, yeah. And I work with a bunch of different clients to produce music, engineer it, mix it, master music on the odd occasion here and there, as well as other random. Sometimes I get hired to do other really random gigs like remote recording or location recording or things like that. Actually, on the odd job, I'll do a random like podcast recording for other people. Strangely enough.
Okay, so like people would come into your studio and then sit there for a good hour talking?
No, sometimes I go to them. Or I had one gig where I went to them, and I just like I set up a few microphones, and then they in a Skype call, and they just recorded, I don't know, them interviewing different people and whatnot. And then I just recorded it, and then I sent it to another guy to edit it and mix it and all that other stuff. But for the most part, I work with musicians, singer-songwriters, bands, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. So artists are known for having a lot of passion and a lot of dreams, but not a lot of money. Right? The starving artist is totally.
It's very real.
It's a very real, at least from the stories I've heard from you in the past.
Real, yeah.
So I'm just wondering, how does the sales process work for you? You probably get reached out to by a lot of people who have no money, but they definitely need the service.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, what percentage of the people who reach out to you actually have money to pay for the service you offer?
I mean, a few of them do. I think I guess one of the things I try to do when going through that process is I try to meet up with the client if I can ahead of time, just to chat about what their goal is and what they want to accomplish with their music, or with what they want to do with me, and then from there I'm able to kind of gauge what my involvement with the project is going to look like, and then from there I can charge a quote. And then, like, one of the hard lessons that I kind of had to teach myself was like valuing myself properly. And so from there, I guess I was, or from that lesson, I had learned to just be very firm. Like, okay, this is what I think I'm worth. And what do you think about it? And then we a lot of the times we'll have like the odd back and forth about like, oh, that's a little bit outside of my budget, and I don't mind negotiating my price or or like bringing my price down for the sake of working with an artist, because at the end of the day, like, I definitely believe in working with artists whose music I do care about more than just making money for the sake of making money. So I guess in that regard, when it comes to dealing with the starving artist, quote unquote, I think for me, it definitely starts with knowing what my worth is, stating my worth to the client, and then depending on how much I believe in what they're trying to do with their music, and that can be discovered in that first meeting or whatnot, then I can figure out whether I'm willing to bring my price down a little bit, or I don't know, not cut corners, but maybe like take away certain services or things like that.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it's not just a matter of finances, but whether their art or their artistic direction, the type of music they're in, resonates and works with you as well.
Yeah, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to like, or that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to like the same like genre of music as my client. But more than anything, I want to make sure, especially on a creative level, that I believe in what they believe in.
Mm-hmm.
because if the both of us, like me and the client, are able to be on the same page creatively in that regard, then it makes the whole process like way smoother. There's a lot less pressure, and we both are able to trust each other through the process. So whenever I make a suggestion like, oh, I don't like this part, or I think this part doesn't fit the song very well, or we should cut this or move this or whatever, like they know that I'm saying these things not from like a discriminatory point of view, but purely because like I want to make this music or make your song like the best that it can be.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely believe in like, I don't know what you want to call it, but creative cohesion, creative unity, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So more than anything, I want to believe in the artist. And if I do find myself believing in the artist, then I don't mind, bringing my price down a little bit if they definitely cannot afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that I'm undervaluing myself, because I know my value. But I believe more in a way, like I believe more in their value than my value, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so money is only one form of the currency. The meaning and the ultimate purpose of the art is another one as well.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like I don't think anybody really signs up to be a music producer because they want to make money.
I mean, I'm sure there are.
I mean, I'm sure there are some that think they can do that, but like very few people actually like succeed in doing that. A good majority of people end up more like I don't know, doing it because they just love to do it, doing it because they love making music, they love connecting with other artists, and like that's what they're really in it for. And the music and the money rather is kind of like a very, very nice byproduct.
Is that actually like the case with most music producers? Passion first, purpose first, and then money second? Because I mean, based on just pop media, from what I see, like it's like every music producer is there to milk an artist out of their every single dime, and they're just like flashing their millions. Or is that just like,
I feel like that's no.
I have a very pop media idea of what a music producer is.
From my experience in the music industry, I feel like that's more like the music executives thing. Wanting every artist that they sign on, they want to make sure that they can make X amount of dollars from them.
Mm-hmm.
The producer's job at the end of the day is to make music sound good.
Okay.
And so I guess depending on how you approach that process, like for me personally, I want to make music sound good because I love music. I care about music a lot. I care about the impact that music has on people. And so I want to be able to contribute to a musician's process in their pursuit of making their music mean something, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I care more about that than I do about making money. Obviously I still want to make money because I want to make a living and everything like that. But at the end of the day, I see my service not just as a service for myself, but a service for other people. And I care about that principle a lot.
Okay. Tell me more about the moment where you realize that this is the kind of business that you need to start.
Man, I guess I could talk about like how I got into music production and like I guess like how I knew like, oh yeah, this is what I got to do for the rest of my life kind of thing. I mean, for me, like music was always in my life. I cared about music. I was always like growing up in school, music was always my favorite subject. And I found myself like naturally being very good at it. Like whatever instrument I picked up, I usually was able to pick it up pretty quickly. And so I knew pretty early on that I wanted to do something music related, but I wasn't sure what. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be like a performer or anything else. For a long time, actually, I was thinking about being a music therapist because I wanted to use music to help people. Like that was my thing. And then when I think in high school or maybe like late elementary school, when I turned on a Mac for the first time and I saw GarageBand for the first time, I was like mind blown at this idea of like, wow, people can like, this is how people get their music out. Like they record it and they put all the pieces together. And then there's this guy that behind all the science and all the technicality who like has to put all these puzzle pieces together to make it sound good. Like it, like when it finally dawned on me that was like an actual role in the music world, I thought it was so cool. And I don't know, I found myself like very quickly falling in love with that aspect. So I started playing around with recording my own songs in GarageBand and everything like that. And then I went to college for it. And I learned all like these other things about the music industry, business, production, engineering, artist management, all that other stuff. And when I was there, like I fell in love with it even more. It was like a whole new, I don't know, playground for me to be inside of an actual recording studio. So I think when I discovered that this was a real thing, and when I found myself falling in love with it, or the prospect of it so easily, I think that's what kind of solidified for me. Like, yeah, this is what I really should be pursuing, as like a real, I don't know, thing in my life. Like I can't have fallen in love with it for nothing. So I took that I guess that newfound passion, and I chased it to whatever end I could. Yeah. And then after I graduated, I worked with my first client who I just like, who's a friend of mine, sort of like, or like I knew of her. I knew she wrote music, and so I randomly went up to her, like, hey, do you want to try like actually like recording your music for real? And she's like, yeah, sure. And so she was the first one to trust me with that. And then from there, I got referrals and more referrals and more referrals, and then here I am today.
Okay. And did you ever consider working for another studio as a producer before starting your own, or was it just like, what was the story there?
It crossed my mind for a little bit, but eventually I chose not to pursue that path because I don't know, maybe I was scared out of it. I just heard way too many horror stories of, I mean, not horror stories, but like,
you don't like being abused?
No, well, like I just didn't like the idea of like going to a studio and the only thing I did was like get coffee for people. I didn't want to, and yeah, sure, like if I did that for long enough, then maybe I would have worked my way up into like actually like working with all the toys and whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, like I wanted to hit the ground running as soon as I could. I wanted to be the producer. I wanted to be in that chair, in the mixing chair, in the producing chair, the engineering chair, all that other stuff. I wanted to be in those roles like as soon as I possibly could, and I didn't want to wait for it. So I don't know, blame it on my on impatience or my compulsivity. I don't know, whatever. But yeah, I figured like if I wanted to do that, I couldn't do it from being a studio mole for someone else. I just had to do it myself. So
oh no, you're so impatient that you ended up becoming a producer right out of college with clients too.
Yeah, no. How dare I? But
yeah.
And so I got like my first few pieces of equipment, and I started really pretty humbly. My parents were really supportive of me, so they helped me get my feet off the ground with a few of my first purchases. I worked another job at the that with like extra income so that I could eventually buy equipment like for myself by myself without the help of my parents. And so and then just over the years I just kept working odd jobs or working another job, and then with my studio and investing as much as I could into my studio, getting better equipment honing my skills and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that equipment's not cheap either. Like, I'm guessing most of your profits or money that you make goes right back into the studio then, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not cheap, but it is at least significantly cheaper than what it would have been even like 20 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the barrier of entry to be a music producer now is super low.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I got my feet off the ground with what little I had, and I'm glad that I was able to make the most out of what I had. And I still do. Actually, a lot of like the first pieces of equipment that I bought then I still have now, and I still use pretty regularly. So yeah, I mean, like most of the profits I make go back into the studio. Either it's like making upgrades or maintenance, or just, I don't know, upgrading for the sake of upgrading, which is in a lot of ways has been a bad habit, and I got to stop that. But
Okay.
yeah, but
The cool shiny toys versus things you need to run the business, right?
yeah, it's definitely like it's wants versus needs. I am happy to say that I think for the most part, most if not all of my needs are covered.
Okay.
Almost every upgrade I make now is purely out of want, out of just like seeing a new toy and being like, ooh, I want it, kind of a thing. And it's a bad habit, and I got to curb
Oh,
it.
that's a dangerous place to be in. To have
It
all your
is.
needs covered and go home, I can get whatever I want. Well, not
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
but within reason.
Yeah, exactly. So now that I think for me, like that's maybe one of my next challenges that I have to overcome.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and because I have to admit, like I never grew up. I never took like business class. I never was good at business in general. Like I don't have that. I just don't have a mind for it. Um, so that's why like I don't have like the fiscal discipline uh, to like really stop myself when I want a new piece of gear.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm in that. I feel like I'm in that place now where I'm really like having that conversation with myself and
Mhm.
being like, no, I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so I like just, yeah, over the years, it's been a lot of like new and interesting lessons. And funny enough, I've been learning less about like how to get better at mixing or engineering or whatever, and learning more about like how to, how to, I don't know, be more disciplined, or just to be a better human being in my job.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Like, was there a story tied to that specifically?
tied to,
Becoming more of a better human being rather than just being a better artist.
um,
Were you a terrible human being?
I
Did you abuse? Did you do
like
like
to.
1980s 360 deals on your artists?
Oh yeah, yeah. I just held all their music at ransom. I was like, I know we agreed on this amount, but I want more money now, and you won't get your delivery
I'll put a
unless I get
sarcasm edit here in case someone
more.
forgets
Yeah.
or
For the record,
misinterprets.
for the official record, that's not true. I was always a pretty nice guy throughout my whole career. But um, um, honestly, I think being married has taught me a lot. I think finally having another like very proactive voice of reason um, has been very helpful. I think my wife is just outside right now. She can probably hear me, but she's probably like agreeing with me in secret. But
Blink three
um,
times if you need help.
um,
Proactive voice of reason.
yeah, yeah. I like whenever I was like, ooh, Carol, like I want this thing, and then she's like, but like, really, do you need it? Like, and she was like, she's very supportive of me in her own right. Like, she made a financial spreadsheet for me, to help me track my income and my expenses and everything like that. Like that's something that I would have never been able to do for myself, and so the fact that she did it for me was already great. And so, like having that tool has already um, really put into perspective like where my money is going. Um, and so I think being married and realizing now that I don't make money just for myself, I make money for myself and another human being. is pretty humbling in that regard. And yeah, that has taught me a lot. And I think a lot of the things I've learned in being married are very easily applicable to how I conduct my business, both on a financial level, even on a relational level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
when I say relational, I mean like when I interact with clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Treating your clients like you would treat your wife, right?
Yeah, well,
It's a really weird way to put it. Not directly. I hope not too
no,
directly.
not too directly, but treating my clients with like a like a different sense of respect and dignity,
Mhm.
and kind of learning more learning more about how to treat my clients as if they were like actual friends of mine, and not just clients, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think like being with my wife, like I've learned just different um interpersonal skills, I guess, in being able to do that.
Mhm. So let's say you had to, for whatever reason, restart this business from scratch. So you
Mhm.
lost everything, equipment, client list, connections, and everything. What would you do different this time?
Um, Gosh, that's a good question. More location gigs, maybe.
Okay, like
Like,
the podcast you mentioned before, where you'd go to that site to do the recording?
yeah, like maybe I'd maybe entertain more ideas of like working on location or going to people rather than making people come to me.
Mhm.
Um, or
So
like,
how viable would that be? Because, I mean, I've seen your studio before. It's a lot of equipment in a room.
mhm.
How do you bring a studio out to other places? Like a trailer? Like,
No, I feel like it's just like getting um getting as much like utilitarian equipment as possible, um or keeping your setup minimalistic but it's very, very flexible and very utilitarian in that regard. There's a lot of equipment that can do that, where it's not like super expensive, um but it's um but it's very versatile, um um and then just kind of keep it all into one like travel case.
mhm.
uh get a good laptop, and then just hit the road. Like right now my setup is very big, because I have a lot of like really big pieces of equipment that only do like one thing really good. um uh at that point I might look into getting pieces of equipment that do multiple things pretty good, um so that I can um travel with less stuff,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, so
um
flexibility and mobility over having dedicated, high quality static stuff.
yeah, maybe. Like I think that would be a fun thing to entertain. And that's not to say that that prospect is outside of the realm of possibility for me right now. Like I could potentially still do that. It would just be a little bit more work, because I have to like tear my stuff out and then put them in a new case and then take it.
Mhm.
um yeah, but I don't know, I mean, um truthfully I don't know. Like I feel like everything I've mentioned so far has been like all like just like little things that I would change. But like overall, I think like my journey with my studio has been very much not necessarily the way that I planned it for it to be, but I wouldn't change anything about it.
Mhm.
um I really enjoyed the process of like how I found clients, um and how I built my studio, or like even just like going through the different phases of my studio, um,
Mhm.
in terms of like how it looked and how it felt and everything like that. Yeah, like I've enjoyed that whole process, and I wouldn't change anything about it. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so I don't know, that all that to say that like I don't know if there's anything I would necessarily change about my business. I mean, maybe I would learn more about business before stepping my foot into it again. Like that's maybe like the most practical thing I could say. It's just,
Learn a
like,
few things about business before starting a business.
Yeah, learn a few. Yeah.
But a good thing is you had customers first, and then that fed into growing the business slowly over time.
Yeah, and like for me, I guess, and I kept it that simple. I deliberately kept it that simple for myself. Like I just found clients that were willing to pay. I did the work. I got paid, and I moved on to the next person. And whatever I did with the money, that was up to me. It might have been reckless, and it might have been a little stupid, but it all added to the value that I was able to give to other people eventually. So even though I might have been in the red, or I might have been in the negative in terms of my overall income, it at least gave me the ability to add more value into my clients, and that I think was in and of itself worth it.
Mm-hmm. So the money was down, especially during the beginning stages, but then by getting all that equipment and all those heavy expenses and infrastructure set up, it allowed you to continue to give even more value as you continued.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to be starting my SoundCloud rap career. My stage name is going to be Lil Egg Roll, and I want to drop a mixtape. So how would I go about recording my mixtape?
Going back to the question of what I would change differently, I would not work with SoundCloud rappers. I do not want to work with SoundCloud. That's what I would change. I would immediately rule that out. I truthfully do not enjoy working with SoundCloud rappers. Not because I don't like rap, but because for some strange reason, like SoundCloud rappers are just weird people, and I don't like working with them. I don't know.
How many SoundCloud rappers have you actually worked with though?
3.
Okay.
3, 4, maybe. Only one of them, like, I genuinely enjoyed working with. The rest of them were all kind of weird. And then after one of my last ones, who was just the worst, after that I was like, I'm never working with a SoundCloud rapper ever again. And from there I've had to like turn down working with SoundCloud rappers.
Like these were paying clients and a bad overall experience, or were these people who just reaching out to you and then?
No, they were paying clients. I just didn't enjoy the experience at all, and I straight up just told them, one of them in particular, I told them like, no, just don't. If and whenever you release this, just don't mention me. Don't tell anybody that you worked with me. Just let it go. And then from there, I was just like, I'm never working with a SoundCloud rapper ever again. It's just not worth it for me.
So specific SoundCloud rappers, not how about like rappers, hip hop artists, R&B?
I don't know. Like, I have worked with R&B before, and I did enjoy it, and I would be open to doing R&B again. I don't know. It's just like it's SoundCloud. When I say SoundCloud rapper, I more mean like the kind of person rather than the kind of music. I don't know. For some reason, like SoundCloud rappers are just the kind of people that I just don't enjoy working with. I don't know why I don't want to say they're all the same, but like they all just kind of give me the same vibe, and I just don't feel comfortable with it.
How would you describe that vibe?
Oh man, I don't know. Like they're a lot of them are really cocky.
Okay.
Like really, really annoyingly arrogant. Their lyrics are all they're all the same. They all talk about the same thing, about how much better they are than anyone else. Yeah, and I don't know, they just have this thing, they kind of like they take people for granted, and I don't like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I had this one SoundCloud rapper who wanted to work with me, and I said no to them. Who was like incessantly knocking on my door, to the point where I was like, oh my god, dude, are one of my neighbors in trouble? I opened the door, and they're like, oh man, yeah, I got this new mixtape that's about to come out. It's gonna be hot. It's gonna be fire. I'm gonna go big. And man, like you need me more than I need. You need me more than I need you. And I was like, what? Like who like greets? Who like makes a first impression with that statement? And so that was when I was like, never again. I'm never doing this again. So
What was his budget?
I don't know. I didn't bother asking because I just knew, it was like, I don't care what you're willing to pay. I'm not working with you. Yeah. So I just couldn't do it. So yeah, no, your SoundCloud project is a no, because I just don't work with them.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, I just thought of this. One thing I would maybe not necessarily change, but I would add to the business if I were to start again, is I would definitely add. I would want to add a service where I could just do like menial work for other producers. I'm really good at, or I feel like I'm pretty good at like menial editing, like audio editing tasks. Things like tuning vocals or editing drums or things like that. I feel like I'm pretty good at that. So it's been on my mind whether I want to like add that as a service to other producers around the world. Just letting them know, like, hey, I can edit drums and I can tune vocals. Let me know if you want me to do any of that menial work for you. Just to, I don't know. I've had fun being able to do that, and I would love to do even more of that if I could.
So if our viewers wanted to get more in contact with you to learn more about what you do, how would they reach you?
They could reach me on my website, which is signalsandnoises.studio. They can contact me through there. They can find me on Instagram. I think I don't even remember what my Instagram handle is. I think it's like
I'll plug it in there.
Yeah. simo.n.g, I think, is my Instagram handle. They can reach me there if they want to. They can straight up add me on Facebook if they want to. Yeah, I'm a pretty personable guy. Just let's chat and we'll go from there.
That's all for this interview. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with the different interviews that we have with more business owners.